Welcome to our series called How to Live Through a Bad Day. How many of you out there have ever had a bad day? Any of y'all ever had a bad day? I think we could all raise both hands and be like, yes, I've had some bad days in my life. And I want to help you. I want to help you learn how to get through a bad day. Our theme verse for this series is Hebrews 12:2, and it says, keep your eyes on Jesus. Keep your eyes on Jesus, who both began and finished the race we're in. How many of you know it's easy to start the race? It's hard to finish the race. But Jesus started it and Jesus finished it. And the Bible tells us, study how he did it. God wants us to use our brain. And God says, hey, don't just see it, but study it. Study how Jesus lived through a bad day. Because he never lost sight of where he was headed. That exhilarating finish in and with God, he could put up with anything along the way. Cross, the shame, whatever, and now he's there in the place of honor right alongside God. So through this series so far, we've learned that if we want to overcome the bad days like Jesus did, then we have to what? We have to do what Jesus did. And if we want to know how Jesus lived through a bad day, then according to the Bible, we have to study how he did it. See, we can all agree that Jesus had some bad days, and one of the most painful days was the day that he was nailed to a cross. We've seen the pictures. We've seen the pictures of Jesus hanging on the cross. But in that picture, we also see something else. We see two other crosses. We see a cross on his right, and we see a cross on his left. And if you know the story, there was two thieves hanging next to him. There was a thief here that was hanging on a cross, and there was a thief here hanging on a cross. Luke 23:39 through 43, it says, one of the criminals, one of the thieves who hung there hurled insults at him. Can you imagine this? Talk about living through a bad day. Not only was Jesus whipped, not only was he ridiculed, not only was he tried illegally, not only did he have a crown of thorns on his head, not only was he nailed to a cross, we could say that's a pretty bad day. But as he was hanging there on the cross, a thief, a criminal, looks over at him and ridicules him in the middle of his bad day. Has that ever happened to you before? You're having a bad day and it's like, how can this day get any worse? And then all of a sudden it does. And you're like, what? I've said this before. I'm going to write Jesus on the back of my hand. I'm going to give you some Jesus if you know what I'm talking about. The criminal said, aren't you the Messiah? Save yourself and us. But the other criminal over here rebuked the other criminal. Don't you fear God, he said, since you are under the same sentence? Look, we are punished justly, for we're getting the deeds that we deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, and this is where it gets good. The criminal said, Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingdom. Jesus answered him, truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. There's a criminal that ridicules Jesus. And man, if that criminal that ridiculed Jesus would have just reached out to him, Jesus would have said the same thing to him. But then there's this other criminal that basically says, Jesus, I recognize you're the Messiah. You're the Son of God. Have mercy on me. And Jesus, in the middle of his bad day, he goes, truly I tell you, you're going to be with me in paradise. In the middle of my pain, in the middle of my hurt, in the middle of my bad day, hey, you're going to be with me. So what should I do when I'm having a bad day and I'm struggling? We got to do what Jesus did. As Jesus was struggling, what did he do? He helped a fellow struggler. And this is what I would say. Help others who are experiencing your same struggle when you go through a bad day. How many of you know it's easy to focus on self? I'm going through a bad day. Why am I going through this bad day? But Jesus says, help others who are experiencing the same struggle as you. That's the title of today's message, by the way, if you're taking notes. Help others who are experiencing the same struggle. One of the most powerful principles we can learn is when we're having a bad day, instead of focusing on us, let's go focus on someone else. Let's help someone else. When you're going through a bad day or a challenging circumstances, guess what? It's not time to retreat. It's not time to pull back. It's not time to focus on self. It's actually time to press in and serve other people. Help other people. See, there's three things that happen when we help others instead of focusing on self, and this is the first one. Helping others distracts us from our own needs. As your pastor, I hope that you know that I'm human. You know, I think there's times, you know, where it's like, I know how I thought when I was growing up in the church. It was kind of like, yeah, pastor, I mean, he's got like a connection with God. He's got like the red phone, you know, on Batman. Like, boom, you pick it up, speed dial, you know, to heaven. Well, we go through bad days as well, just like you. We all go through bad days, and I go through bad days, and I go through tough times, and I have struggles throughout the week. And there's a lot of good going on in my life, but just like you, I get challenging information and bad things that happen to me throughout the week. But I have to admit, having church on Sundays helps me get through my bad days. Why? Because I got to show up and I got to have my act together. I got to show up and I got to have my act together because you're counting on me. For example, there were some things that happened to me last week that made me have a bad day, and guess what last week's message was on? If you weren't here, you can check it out online. Last week's message was on forgiveness. How many of you know you can't have, me showing up and I'm preaching on forgiveness, but I got unforgiveness in my heart? See, helping others distracted me from my own needs. And I remember just praying and seeking God and saying, okay, God, you know what's going on. I just forgive. I actively forgive. I actively trust you, Father. I bless them. Give them strength. God, may they follow you. May they work for you. Because I can't show up talking about forgiveness with having unforgiveness in my heart. See, every Sunday I realize you're walking through things. And I need to bring something that encourages you. Helping you distracts me from my own needs. The second thing is this. Helping others helps us see the solution. Helping others, it helps us see the solution. Many times when I go through a bad day or a difficult situation, I'm often blinded on what to do about it. But when someone goes through a bad day and all of a sudden they come to me like, Pastor, I'm going through a bad day. What should I do? All of a sudden I turn into like the bomb counselor. You know what I'm talking about? It's like, yeah, boy, you should do this. You should do that. Man, hey, it's going to be okay. God is with you. But when I'm going through a bad day, it's tough to see what I need to see. It's tough to see the solution. But whenever I help others, guess what? When I help others, it helps me see this solution as well. And I'm talking with them and I'm helping them through this. And what they don't know is I'm probably going through the same thing behind the scenes. And all of a sudden, as I'm helping them, I'm going, okay, that's what I need to do too. You know what I'm saying? That's what I need to do too. See, I've seen this time and time again in marriages. It's like, hey, do you not see what's going on in your marriage right now? See, they can't see the issue because there's so much pain. They can't see the issue because they're focused on them being hurt and not focusing on saying, okay, I know that I'm hurt. Obviously, my spouse is hurt. Let me move in and see why they're hurting so that I can hopefully help bring a solution to it. And when you're doing that, guess what happens? You all of a sudden see a solution to help you through your own pain as well. That's why we have to live lives focused on others. Helping others has a way of healing you. Always remember that. Helping others. Marco, I'm going through a hard time. I've been through hurts. I've been through challenges. I've been through pains. These pains have wounded me. These hurts have wounded me. To that, I would say, helping others helps heal you. It has a way of healing you. The third thing is helping others puts everything into perspective. You ever gone through a bad day and you're going through a challenging circumstance, and then all of a sudden you meet somebody that's going through a circumstance that's more difficult than you, and then you get perspective all of a sudden? And you're like, yeah, I thought I was going through a bad day until I met them. My bad day isn't as bad as I actually thought that it was. And you reach out and you start helping them, and as you help them, you get perspective. I don't want to minimize your bad days, so I'll say this about my own bad days. Many times my bad days are a lot less worse than I really think they are. There's real bad days out there, but the majority of my bad days aren't really as bad as I make them out to be. See, many times we're a whole lot more blessed than we actually think that we are. Many times we're a whole lot more blessed than we actually think we are. That's why we have a saying around here. And one of our sayings is this, is saved people serve people. Saved people serve people. Look, hurt people will hurt people. If you're going through a challenging situation, maybe at work, in your family, with friends, and this person or these people are hurting you, the reason they're hurting you is because they're probably hurting themselves. Hurt people hurt people. But also say this, healed people heal people. And saved people serve people. See, once we give our hearts to Jesus, it's important that we realize, hey, Jesus isn't just for me anymore. Yeah, I'm going to go through difficult circumstances. I'm going to go through bad days. But no matter what comes my way, Jesus has saved me. Therefore, it's my role to go and to serve people and show them the message of Jesus Christ. Because we have to remember that when we're going through a bad day, guess what? At least we get to go to heaven. You ever thought about that before? It's like, I'm going through a bad day, I'm going through a tough time, and then all of a sudden God has a way of just bringing things back around, and all of a sudden you go, at least I get to go to heaven. Because I remember what my life was like. I don't know about you, but this is a true story about me. I know what my life was like the day before I gave my heart to Jesus. I was a mess. I was a wreck. You get around me long enough still, I'm a mess and I'm a wreck in some other situations too. We all have issues. Everyone's normal until you get to know them, you know? And so when you're going through a bad day, it's easy to focus on ourselves, but God says, no, that's not how you're going to get through a bad day. Jesus is hanging on a cross, and he could have easily said, no, I'm not helping you, dude. Look, do you see how much pain I'm in? I got to focus on me right now. But that's not what Jesus did. Jesus said, hey, truly I tell you, I hear you. I hear you. And not only do I hear you, but I'm going to help you. You're going to be with me. You're going to be with me today. Got to serve others. See, a sign of spiritual maturity is seen in how we respond to pain, challenges, and bad days. Do you retreat and focus on self? Or do you turn outwards and give yourself away to help others? As Jesus hung on a cross, he turned outwards. See, the solution to a bad day is not to do everything you can to find comfort. It's to do everything you can to help others. Let me say this about turning outward on your bad day. When in the middle of your struggle, you decide to go help others, I'm just saying this. When you're in the middle of your bad day, when you're going through your struggle, and all of a sudden in the middle of that, you go, you know what? I'm not focusing on me. I'm going to do what you called me to do, God. You know what God does in that moment? He looks over at that person, and he goes, oh, that's a person that I can trust. That's a person that I'm going to bless. In the midst of what they're going through, in the midst of the bad day, in the midst of their challenge, they're not deciding to focus on them. They're deciding to help my people, to help my children, hear the message of Jesus Christ, and to take as many people to heaven with them as they can before they die. Oh, I'm going to bless them. I'm going to give them strength. All of a sudden, this person starts giving out. They start serving. They start doing what God has called them to do. Guess what happens when you start serving? When you start serving, you find strength. And that's God supernaturally through his Holy Spirit going, I'm going to keep breathing on that person. I'm going to keep blessing that person. I'm going to keep meeting that person where they are because I can see that I can trust them. They're not turning inward, but they're serving others in the midst of their bad day. Isaiah 58, 10 through 11, it says, and if you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness. Are you going through a dark time right now? Are you going through darkness in your life right now? I would say this, go serve someone. Go help someone. Are you discouraged? Go find somebody to encourage. Again, we live in a reaping and sowing world. The world calls it karma. God came up with the word, or God came up with the principle karma long before karma ever existed, and it's called reaping and sowing. When he created the foundations of the earth, you reap what you sow. When you plant a corn seed, you're not going to get an apple tree. You know what I'm saying? You're going to reap what you sow. When you feel discouraged, go encourage somebody, because when you sow that seed of encouragement, guess what? You're going to be encouraged yourself. Are you going through difficulties in life? Whatever difficulties you're going through, whatever you need, I would encourage you to do this. Go sow that same thing that you need and watch God do what only he can do and multiplying it in your life and blessing you in your life. You will see the light rise in the darkness, and your night will become like the noonday. The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land. When's God going to satisfy your needs? He's going to satisfy your needs when you spend yourself on helping other people. And he will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose water never fails. God tells us that if we take care of others, he will take care of us. The other day, I was talking with a person in our church. It's actually Tanya over here. Raise your hand, Tanya. She has no idea I'm doing this. I hope it's okay. I'll ask for forgiveness later. The other day, I was talking with her in our church, and she said, Marco, I didn't want to come to church today. And as a pastor, you're kind of like, oh, all right, you don't want to come. Are we doing everything okay here? You know what I'm saying? She goes, I didn't want to come to church today. But then as I was laying there, I thought to myself, you know what? Jesus didn't want to hang on the cross for me either. And she said, if he hung on a cross for me, then the least I can do is go to church to hear about him. And I was like, that's a good point. Give it up for Tanya. And here's another true story. Last week, I asked our Vibrant Kids coach, Amanda Wise. Some of you may know her, fantastic lady. And I called her or texted her early in the week, and I said, Amanda, would you mind just sharing at our pre-service meeting for our serve team volunteers? And she said, absolutely, I'd love to. Well, what I didn't know is that she wasn't scheduled to serve last week. And I got to church, and we're setting up, and I didn't see her, and I texted her. I said, Amanda, I said, are you not scheduled to serve this week? She goes, no, I'm not on the schedule. I said, hey, stay home with your family and come to church a little later. No, don't come at 8:25 when we set up. And she was like, no, Marco. She goes, I want to come early. She goes, I know I'm not on the serve team schedule, but somebody needs to hear what I have to say today, and I want to help them. That is the mentality that we're called to have as followers of Jesus. But what we didn't know, and what many of us didn't know, is that she was walking through a situation in her family where something crazy had happened with her brother. Over the last 3 years, she's lost both of her parents. And she wanted to share what God was doing in her life. In the middle of her hurt, in the middle of her bad day, in the middle of her pain, she says, no, I want to help some other people. I thought that was pretty powerful. See, that's the mentality we're called to have as followers of Jesus. But Marco, I have too many issues going on in my life right now to look outwards and to help someone else. Listen to me. Your messes are your ministry. I don't know about you. I don't like talking to perfect people. Any of y'all like talking to I talk to a perfect person, I'm like thinking in my head, how can I get away from this conversation? Like, they just think they got it all together, and I'm over here going, I got issues. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't help you because you're perfect. You know what I mean? I can help you through some things that I've gone through because, there's some things that I'm a mess in. But my messes become my ministry. When God comes in, our life is a mess. We have issues. We have struggles. We have bad days. God breathes his life on it, and he heals those messes. And he heals those bad days. He heals those hurts. And he heals those pains. That's whenever our testimony shines brightest for God. That's when our story becomes real, when all of a sudden you meet somebody and they're going through the same thing that you went through, and all of a sudden you're able to go, hey, listen. And not only are you able to go, hey, listen, but you're able to tell them that God is going to be with them, that he's going to be faithful because of what he did in your life. All of a sudden, if you allow God to heal your messes and you allow God to use your messes as your ministry, all of a sudden you can speak with authority on some issues. Listen to me, there's not a drug dealer that can come my way that I can't go, hey, I know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? I know what you're going through. You know, I can speak with authority because I was one. There's been hurts and pains and losses and different things that I've gone through that, you know what? Ain't nobody tell me. And I know ain't for all my English majors out here, you know what I'm saying? I know it ain't a word, you know, ain't a word, but I just, yeah, I can't even. But I know that anyways, I can't remember where I was going with that. but your message or your ministry. What was I saying? Okay, you get it. I'll say this. God uses broken people to do big things. Don't quit moving forward. Don't quit helping others. All right, Marco, so I get that. My messes are my ministry. Even though I'm broken, God will still use me. But how do I help others in the midst of my bad day? It's a good question. Let's look back at how Jesus helped the thief on the cross next to him. Luke 23, 39 through 43, it says, "Then he, the thief, said to Jesus, 'Remember me when you come into your kingdom.' And Jesus answered, 'Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise.'" See, the first way that you help others when they're having a bad day is, number one, offer them stability. Offer them stability. Jesus said, "Truly I tell you." He didn't say, "Hey, man, you know, there's a possibility. I got to go talk to my Father first. There's a possibility you'll be in heaven, but I got to kind of dot some I's and cross some T's before I, really confirm that for you." No, he said, truly I tell you, you will be with me in paradise today." See, everything in life, this is what I want you to know. Everything in life is moving and shifting. Have you noticed that? Like, there's nothing constant in life. We think we got it all under control, but we kind of live like, yeah, I got this all under control, but then things happen and you realize you're not quite in as much control as you thought that you were. Why is that? Because the only thing that's certain about this life is change. That's the only thing that you can be certain about, is that things in life will change. People come and go. Jobs come and go. The only thing that never changes, though, is God. His word, His principles. Those things never change. That's why when we decide to help others through a bad day, the first thing that we need to offer them is stability in God. Hey, what you're going through is tough. I know. I get it. But God is with you. And somehow this will work out for the good, because that's God's promise. Psalms 40:2, it says, "He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand." See, everyone needs a little bit of this in their life. "On Christ, the solid rock I stand. All other ground," I know, Busayo, you getting jealous. "All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand." And you're pacing your floor in your living room. You're driving to work in your car. "On Christ, the solid rock I stand. All other ground is sinking sand. All other ground is sinking sand." Jesus is the only one that offers us stability. Number two, offer them support. Marco, how can I help other people? Offer them stability, but then also offer them support. Not only did Jesus say, "Truly I tell you," but he also said, "Today you will be with me. Today you will be with me." Jesus said, "Yeah, I'll encourage you, but I'll also take the journey with you." Jesus said, "I'm not only going to tell you about heaven, but today you're going to be there with me." You may be here today and physically you're not alone, but internally you are. Maybe you're here today and you're like, "You know what, Marco, I've been going through a season of my life where I can be around all these people, but I feel so alone inside." I've been there. I feel just so alone. If this is you, I want you to know you're not going to be able to make it. You need people in your life to give you support. You're not going to be able to make it alone. You need people around you that can encourage you, because God didn't design you to be alone. That's why one of the best parts of our structure here at Vibrant Church is our groups. Whenever you came in, you saw this little groups seat drop promo on your seat whenever you came in. But this is the best part of the structure of Vibrant Churches because circles are better than rows. God hasn't called us to walk through life alone. He's called us to have friends and to walk into relationships, to have people around us that can encourage us and say, hey, I know you're going through a bad day, but you have support in me. Because today you're going to be with me. Oh, you know what? You're going through a bad day? Hey, let's go grab some coffee. Hey, you're going through a bad day? Why don't you come over? Oh, you're going through a bad day? I can tell you this, God is going to be with you. And so we would encourage you here, don't do life alone. If you're interested in joining a group, man, you can see we got women's groups, men's group, worship team group, mom's group, running group, young adults group. Our groups kicked off this past week. They've been awesome. How many of y'all were at our young adults group this past week, huh? It was straight legit. How many were at our running and walking group? Anybody at our running and walking group this past? And then our women's group, we had our women's group last week as well. It was off the chain. We got our men's group coming up this week. Our worship teams, if you play an instrument or you sing and you want to be on the worship team, you can go to our worship team group. We got a lot of cool things happening with our groups. But I'll just say this. Why do we have all these things? Why do we have classes here? Why do we serve here? Why do we have groups? Yes, we want you to grow in your relationship with God, but I'll say this. We have these things because we want you to meet a friend. We just want you to meet a friend. We want you to meet someone that you can do life with. Because we want you to have support. So please quit walking through life alone. Find a group to connect in. Find a serve team to be a part of so that you can walk through life with godly support. Ecclesiastes 4:12, it says, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Check this out. But three, a group, three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. So the third way we can help others through a bad day is this. Number 3, offer them salvation. Offer them salvation. So he offered them stability. Jesus offered them stability. Then Jesus offered that thief support. But then finally, Jesus didn't stop there. He offered that thief salvation. Jesus looks at him and says, today you will be with me in paradise. Do you know, maybe you've studied this before, maybe you haven't. Do you know what the word paradise actually means in the Greek? The word paradise actually means resort. The best translation in the English language is the word resort. I don't know about y'all, but man, I can't wait to have my feet kicked up and have, in paradise, chilling at that resort. But really it is a picture of this, that paradise, heaven, it's a picture of rest, of true, deep rest. It's a resting place. Jesus looks at this thief and says, hey, I know you're going through a tough time right now. I'm going through a tough time myself. But here in a moment, we're going to have rest. Here in a moment, you're going to have peace. If you keep going on, keep going through this, you're going to be with me in a peaceful place. See, the Bible talks about heaven in a completely different way than a lot of times we do today. We have this American mindset that says, God, you're obligated to fix everything now and here. And many times he does. But there's some things he doesn't fix here on this earth, and he never will. And that's because he has something better for you. Oftentimes when Jesus tried to help people, guess what? When Jesus tried to help people, he didn't often fix their now moment. Instead, he refocused their attention to another place. Let me show it to you. John 14, 1 through 2. And this is Jesus speaking to you and me. Hey, don't let your hearts be troubled. Maybe some of you came in here and your heart is just troubled. Jesus says, hey, don't let it be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. Believe in Jesus. You believe in God. You believe that there's a creator out there. But Jesus says, that's not good enough. I need you to believe also in me. I need you to believe in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? Marco, what perspective do I need to have when I'm going through a bad day? Perspective is this. Right now, going on in heaven, Jesus is preparing a place for me. I committed my life to him, And He's called me to a purpose on this planet. And as I'm fulfilling my purpose, as I'm walking out and I'm being faithful to God, He's up there and He's preparing a place for me. One day, I'm going to be there. And I'm going to be in that place of rest. I'm going to be in that place of peace. I'm going to be there worshiping God for the rest of my life. Jesus is saying, I know you're going through a tough time. You're having a bad day, but don't let your heart be troubled. Keep your eyes on heaven. Yeah, things are hard. Things are hard, but I'm preparing a place of rest for you. One day you'll see it. Don't give up. Keep going. Don't turn inward. Don't turn inward. Keep your focus outward. Keep your focus outward. Keep it on that thief. Keep it on that thief. Keep walking in the purposes I have for you. Keep the right perspective. Why? Because in just a little while, we're going to another place where there's going to be no more crying. There's going to be no more cancer. There's going to be no more sickness, no more medical bills. There's going to be no more pain, no more shattered hopes, no more job termination notices, no more worries. In just a little while, we're going to be in heaven. And you need to be reminded of that. Because we're just passing through this life. We're just passing through it. See, the cool thing about Jesus is He offers something greater than a better now. He offers a better place. A better place. That's why the best hope that I can give you today is salvation through Jesus Christ. Jesus says this, anybody who calls on my name will be saved.